Do higher dimensions exist? Are there unseen worlds just beyond our reach, beyond the normal laws of physics?
Although higher dimensions have historically been the exclusive realm of charlatans, mystics, and science fiction writers, many serious theoretical physicists now believe that higher dimensions not only exist, but may also explain some of the deepest secrets of nature. Although we stress that there is at present no experimental evidence for higher dimensions, in principle they may solve the ultimate problem in physics, the final unification of all physical knowledge at the fundamental level. Sometimes I believe that we are like the carp living contentedly on the bottom of that pond. We live our lives blissfully ignorant of other worlds that might coexist with us, laughing at any suggestion of parallel universes. All this has changed rather dramatically in the past few years. The theory of higher dimensional space may now become the central piece in unlocking the origin of the universe. At the center of this conceptual revolution is the idea that our familiar three-dimensional universe is too small to describe the myriad forces governing our universe. To describe our physical world, with its almost infinite variety of forms, requires entire libraries overflowing with mountains of technical journals and stacks of obscure, learned books. The ultimate goal of physics, some believe, is to have a single equation or expression from which this colossal volume of information can be derived from first principles. Today, many physicists believe that we have found the unified field theory which eluded Einstein for the last 30 years of his life. Although the theory of higher dimensional space has not been verified, and, we shall see, would be prohibitively expensive to prove experimentally, almost 5,000 papers, at last count, have been published in the physics literature concerning higher dimensional theories, beginning with the pioneering papers of Theodore Kaluza and Oscar Klein in the 1920s and 30s, to the supergravity theory of the 1970s, and finally to the superstring theory of the 1980s and 90s. In fact, the superstring theory, which postulates that matter consists of tiny strings vibrating in hyperspace, predicts the precise number of dimensions of space and time, is 10.
Why can't we see the fourth dimension?
To understand these higher dimensions, we remember that it takes 3 numbers to locate every object in the universe, from the tip of your nose to the ends of the world. For example, if you want to meet some friends in Manhattan, you tell them to meet you at the building at the corner of 42nd Street and 5th Avenue, on the 37th floor. It takes 2 numbers to locate your position on a map, and 1 number to specify the distance above the map. It thus takes 3 numbers to specify the location of your lunch. If we meet our friends at noon, then it takes 4 numbers to specify the space and time of the meeting. However, try as we may, it is impossible for our brains to visualize the fourth spatial dimension. Computers, of course, have no problem working in n-dimensional space, but spatial dimensions beyond 3 simply cannot be conceptualized by our feeble brains. The reason for this unfortunate accident has to do with biology, rather than physics. Human evolution put a premium on being able to visualize objects moving in 3 dimensions. There was a selection pressure placed on humans who could dodge lunging saber-toothed tigers or hurl a spear at a charging mammoth. Since tigers do not attack us in the fourth spatial dimension, there simply was no advantage in developing a brain with the ability to visualize objects moving in 4 dimensions.
Meeting a higher dimensional being.
To understand some of the mind-bending features of higher dimensions, imagine a 2-dimensional world, called Flatland, after Edwin A. Abbott's celebrated novel, that resembles a world existing on a flat tabletop. If one of the Flatlanders becomes lost, we can quickly scan all of Flatland, peering directly inside houses, buildings, and even concealed places. If one of the Flatlanders becomes sick, we can reach directly into their insides and perform surgery, without ever cutting their skin. If one of the Flatlanders is incarcerated in jail, which is a circle enclosing the Flatlander, we can simply peel the person off from Flatland into the 3rd dimension and place the Flatlander back somewhere else. If we become more ambitious and stick our fingers and arms through Flatland, the Flatlanders would only see circles of flesh that hover around them, constantly changing shape and merging into other circles. And lastly, if we fling a Flatlander into our 3-dimensional world, the Flatlander can only see 2-dimensional cross-sections of our world, i.e. a phantasmagoria of circles, squares, etc. which constantly change shape and merge, see figure 1 and 2. Now imagine that we are 3-dimensional Flatlanders being visited by a higher dimensional being. If we became lost, a higher dimensional being could scan our entire universe all at once, peering directly into the most tightly sealed hiding places. If we became sick, a higher dimensional being could reach into our insides and perform surgery without ever cutting our skin. If we were in a maximum security, escape-proof jail, a higher dimensional being could simply yank us into a higher dimension and redeposit us back somewhere else. If higher dimensional beings stick their fingers into our universe, they would appear to us to be blobs of flesh which float above us and constantly merge and split apart. And lastly, if we are flung into hyperspace, we would see a collection of spheres, blobs, and polyhedra which suddenly appear, constantly change shape and color, and then mysteriously disappear. Higher dimensional people, therefore, would have powers similar to a god. They could walk through walls, disappear and reappear at will, reach into the strongest steel vaults, and see through buildings.
They would be omniscient and omnipotent. Not surprisingly, speculation about higher dimensions has sparked enormous literary and artistic interest over the last 100 years.